What is going on, guys? Stefan here with you, S&E's Garage. Behind us, we have our latest purchase. So for those of you that are new to the channel, I'd like to introduce you to one of our most notorious and rare Lexus vehicles. This is a 2016 Lexus GSF. We featured this on the channel plenty of times. It is pretty highly modified. It's on suspension, full exhaust, you know, the works. Over here, we have our ultimate daily driver IS350. We're still not done with this yet. This spring, we're going to be doing some more stuff to this. But over here, we have our newest vehicle. This is a 2005 Lexus GX470. And it is equipped with one of the best V8 engines Toyota ever made, the 2UZ FE. So our needs as a family changed quite a bit this winter. Santa Claus was very good to us. My wife and I got some new quads. I have a Sportsman 850. It's a 2024. My wife has a 570. It's also a 2024. And my kids got some quads as well. Both of my kids have some Yamaha YFZ50s. And we need to be able to tow them around. And unfortunately for us, our 280,000 mile V6 Wrangler is not up to the task. You can see here this Wrangler is old, it's tired, and it's going to be time for it to go because it just cannot tow what I need it to tow. Back here, beyond the stones with our homestead, we have our chickens, but over there we have an 18-foot trailer that we are going to be basically riding our quads with. We're going to be taking our quads to different areas this spring and this summer and enjoy them. And the Wrangler just couldn't do it. So I needed something with a V8, and I needed something, you know, that was going to be able to tow, you know, at least 5,000–6,000 pounds. And this fit the bill perfectly. I was looking for one of these or a V8 4Runner. And for those of you that are not new to the channel, the Mazda did sell. We made quite a bit of money on the Mazda. So we took that Mazda money and we picked this up. So this is a 2005 GX470 with about 155,000 miles on it. And it is actually in beautiful shape. Let me just unlock the back doors here. I got to change that setting. You'll see the back seats are, we put these seat covers here to protect them when the kids are sitting in with their car seats. But the back seats are like new. And this vehicle is also equipped with a third row. Now, I love the way this door opens. I think it's so cool. But you'll see here, we do have the one third row seat open for one of our kids. And then we have the other one here folded up so we have some extra cargo room. But this truck fit the bill absolutely perfectly. Now, unfortunately, there are some things that I am going to have to add. This one does not have a trailer hitch. We already went ahead and ordered an OEM Lexus trailer hitch. We're going to go ahead and install that on the channel. We are going to need a brake controller. We are going to also go ahead and install that on the channel. It's actually super easy on these. Now, this thing is not perfect. It does have some issues. I'm going to start it up in a second. I'm going to let you hear one of the issues that is actually super common with the 4.7 liter V8. And then it also has some issues in the driveline that we're going to have to address. And we're also going to take this vehicle in a little bit of a different direction than I usually go in. I usually go for an OEM Plus look. You'll see here with our GSF, other than some wheels and some ground effects kits and some chrome delete, from the outside, it looks like an enhanced original equipment car. Again, that's kind of the look I go for. But with this, we're going to be doing an Overland build with it. So we're going to be lifting it about 2.5–3 inches. We're going to put some 33s under it. We're going to do a roof rack. We're probably going to put the spare tire up on the roof. Probably do a winch bumper. I'm going to take my winch that we put off the Jeep. It's a 12,000-pound winch. We're going to take that off before we sell it, and it's going to end up on this. And we're going to really build this to be an all-purpose off-road tow and apocalypse rig. This would quite literally, if there was a zombie apocalypse, this would be the type of car that I would pick, just because this is basically based off of a Land Cruiser. I believe it's the Pardo. Correct me if I'm wrong. But it's basically a baby Land Cruiser or a baby LX470. And that was exactly what I wanted, because I wanted something that would still be small enough to go down trails and, you know, have fun out in the woods. But I also wanted it to be capable. And this, like I said, fit the bill perfectly. So let's go ahead and fire it up, let you hear it, and again, you're going to hear one of the issues that it has. So unfortunately for us, this does have the dreaded exhaust manifold tick. These exhaust manifolds are kind of built in a weird way. They're a two-piece design, so the flange is separate from the pipe, and what happens is the O-ring part basically of the pipe cracks and separates from the exhaust. So when the engine is cold, they tick, but you'll hear as soon as you get some heat in the manifold, the metal expands and the tick almost disappears. If I give it a little bit of throttle right now, you'll hear it a little bit, but it's definitely not unbearable, and it's definitely something that we are going to live with for a little while, just because I want to get this thing lifted and set up and ready to use for the summer, and then maybe over the winter or over the fall of this coming year, we'll go ahead and address that exhaust manifold. But other than that ticking noise, you'll hear this 2UZ is extremely healthy. Luckily for us, the previous owner did do a couple of things to it. They replaced the radiator, they did a timing belt and water pump, but unfortunately, they filled it with green coolant. So again, once we get it up on the lift, I'm going to show you some things underneath it. I'm going to show you some things that we bought to go ahead and begin servicing it, and we'll take it from there. We're going to do a whole video series on this, from maintenance to modifications and to completion, and then we're going to use this to record with our quads. You're going to see this featured in a lot of our videos this summer, and I'm super excited to bring that to you. So let's go ahead, let's get you set up on the suction cup in the truck, and let's go take it for a ride. So inside here, we do have a couple of small issues. It has the typical Toyota dashboard crack. This is not the worst I've seen by far. I've seen so much worse. So as long as we try to keep this out of the sun as best as possible, we always park it back here in the shade when it's not being used, or it'll be in the garage. I think we'll be okay. But other than that, you know, it doesn't have a touchscreen or a navigation system. We're going to have to go ahead and upgrade that. Again, we're going to need a brake controller down here, and it does have a tire pressure light on. I set all the pressures already. I got to scan it. I'm sure there's probably something going on with one of the sensors. Not a huge deal. When I get my new wheels and tires, we'll put new sensors in them. You'll see here it does have heated seats. It has downhill assist. Basically, if you press that button when you're going downhill, the car will maintain speed for you. It's got the ride height and comfort modes. And then it's also got a 2-speed transfer case. So this thing is full-time 4-wheel drive. Just like the V8 4Runners, it's not selectable, so it's 4-wheel drive all the time. But you can switch between high range and low range. You know, you're going to drive most of your time in high. If you're in a position where you need some torque, you can switch it into low. And then you also, right here, have your center locking differential, which will get you out of trouble if you ever get stuck in a precarious situation. We do also have a sunroof, which, by the way, does work. I know a lot of people complain about sunroofs on used cars, but every single used Toyota that I've bought with a sunroof, it has always worked. So I don't know if I've had good luck or if Toyota just makes a better sunroof than some other manufacturers, but no complaints here. So let's go ahead and take it for a ride. All right, guys, so we are here in the GX470, and we're just pulling out of our street here, or out of our driveway. One thing I want you to listen to is absolutely nothing. This thing is super quiet and super refined. Toyota basically took the 1UZ FE, which was designed for cars that needed a little bit more horsepower than torque, like the LS400 or the SC400, and they punched it out and stroked it out, and they made it a 4.7. So when they did that, they created a more torquey engine. This car has about 270 horsepower, but it's got 330 foot-pounds of torque. So it's got plenty of torque to go ahead and get the truck moving. And it's also got the torque for towing, which, like we said, is going to be pretty important for us. We're going to be putting about 5,000 pounds behind this thing. It's rated for 7. So we're going to have a 2,000 pound window there. So I'm not worried about that. But it's going to be able to handle that with ease with this engine. It's a very torquey engine. It wants to get the truck moving, which I think is super nice. Now, this is actually my first time driving a GX. I've driven an LX many years ago. It was an LX470. It had like 300,000 miles on it. It's basically based off a Toyota Land Cruiser. And I've driven several V6 4Runners. And this truck is basically based off of the V8 4Runner. So I felt right at home when I got into this. You know, the brakes felt like I've been here before. The engine, you know, I'm familiar with how these cars operate. And if you're familiar with our channel, you know that we specialize in Toyota and Lexus vehicles. We do a little bit of Hyundai here and there. I worked at Hyundai for a while, but what I personally like, my bread and butter, is Toyota and Lexus, and that's why when we decided we needed to replace the Jeep with something that would be just as capable, if not more capable, and able to tow, this was one of the vehicles that was immediately on my radar. Now, sometimes I do wish that I would be able to put this in a two-wheel drive mode. I do wish it had select track rather than full-time four-wheel drive. I think it would get a little bit better gas mileage because there would be less of a strain on the powertrain just driving around town. But I guess it is what it is. If you want a V8 4Runner or one of these in a V8 you know, variant, that's kind of what you have to go for. I don't know if it's possible to maybe take the transfer case out of a Tundra with the same engine and you know, throw it in here and then have selectable four-wheel drive. I'm not sure. I'm going to look into it. But even if it is possible, I don't know if it's cost effective. Again, we're going to look into it. We're going to do everything we can to this thing to, you know, future-proof it and make it for everything we need to do. So when I get back to the shop and put it on the lift, I'm going to show you what we bought. But we are going to be doing the transmission. We're going to be dropping the pan and servicing it. I do not know if it's been serviced before. There's nothing on the Carfax. But at 154,000 miles with Toyota WS Trans Fluid, that's really not a huge deal. That stuff is pretty stout. I've done services on Toyotas with 170, 180 on the original fluid, and it still comes out dark red. So really not that worried about it. I don't know if the front or rear differential or the transfer case have ever been serviced. They take just straight 75/90 or 80/90 gear oil. Again, we're going to take care of that. We're going to service this whole drivetrain. That way we know it's going to be reliable, and then we're going to modify the heck out of the truck. Like I said, I already went ahead and ordered some stuff, but we're going to be lifting it about 3 inches. We're going to put it on big tires, and we're going to make this thing super capable. Now, this does have the same 5-speed transmission that is shared with the 4Runner, the Tundra, the Land Cruiser, the LX470. Basically anything that Toyota... Whoa, listen to that. This thing sounds great. But basically any higher torque rated Toyota V6 or V8 engines of this time period, say from 2003 to 2020 in the 4th generation 4Runner, used this transmission. It's just a really stout 5-speed automatic made by Warner. It's the A750E or A750F, I'm sorry, because it's rated for 4-wheel drive. But it is a very stout transmission, and they very, very rarely have component failures. So again, I am not worried whatsoever with having a little bit of a higher mileage on it and servicing it. I've serviced many high mileage Toyota and Lexus vehicles with no problems, my IS350 being one of them. So I am excited to go ahead and get you guys, you know, set up on the tripod later on this weekend and get this transmission freshened up. I'm sure it'll help with shift quality and feel at minimum. So we are basically going to be building this to be our forever rig. I don't ever want to have to replace this. It's got everything that I need. It's got the 3rd row seats. It's got a V8 engine. It's going to be able to tow. It's going to be lifted so we can take it off-road. And like I said, it's going to be everything that we need in a vehicle, or in a second off-road vehicle. The Durango's not going anywhere. That's our family hauler. If we ever go super long distances, like, you know, vacation, that's probably what we're going to take. It's a little bit more roomy. But this is going to be our around town, go off-roading and go quadding rig, which we do a lot. We do that a lot as a family. We have a lot of fun. So we are going to have a lot of smiles per gallon in this truck. Unfortunately, that's the only thing per gallon that we're going to get a lot of in this truck, because even though it's only a 4.7 liter, it absolutely sucks gas like anything I've ever seen before. I think it's actually worse than the Durango, believe it or not. Now let me know, comment down below, what do you guys use for rust proofing in the Northeast? I've heard some good things about fluid film. I was probably going to buy some of that and spray it in the weep and the drain holes of the frame. I was going to descale some of the rust. Like I said, it's all surface rust. This thing is very sturdy. But I am going to descale it. Probably going to spray paint everything underneath black and then undercoat over that just to protect both sides of the frame, both the inside and the outside, because again, we want this to be our forever rig. We don't want to have any issues with rust, and that is a big problem here living in the salt belt. We salt the roads, unfortunately, when they get slippery, so we don't kill ourselves, and it's the necessary evil, I guess. I don't like it, but it is what it is. So we do need to protect it from that. And really, that's the only thing that I see being a problem with this truck is in the future rust, because this engine is indestructible, this transmission is indestructible. Everything else around it I can fix other than the frame. So if we have any problems, hopefully it's not frame problems and we can fix it. The exhaust manifolds are probably going to be an absolute bear. I've heard that they absolutely suck to do. So you guys can suffer with us through that video when we get to that point. Probably just going to do headers on it and pick up a couple extra powers out of this 4.7, because I have heard that headers pick up like 30 horsepower. I'm sure they choke this thing pretty good with emission stuff from the factory. And we might even put a snorkel on it. I'm not sure if I want to start drilling holes in the fender of a truck that's this clean, but we'll see. I think it would look pretty cool for the Overland theme, but I did just want to show this, guys, to use stock before we really started messing with it. That lift will be here any day now, and we can start cutting wires, cutting air hoses, and pulling airbags out to get this thing where we want it. So now that we've gone ahead, showed you the car, taken you for a ride, let's look under the hood, see what this is all about. So this Lexus is equipped with the 2UZ FE. This is quite literally one of the best V8 engines ever made, let alone by Toyota. It's a 4.7 liter V8, variable valve timing, belt driven, iron block. It is a workhorse. It's not the most powerful engine in the world, but it will quite literally take you through the apocalypse. Now, we've already gone ahead and ordered some things for it here. We are going to be servicing the transmission. We already did an oil change on it, and whenever they did the timing belt, someone just actually recently had it done. For whatever reason, they filled it with green coolant, which is not really my favorite thing in the world. So we are going to drain and fill the coolant. Someone also put a new radiator in it. So we did buy this. You know, we spent a little bit more money on this than we would have liked, but living in the Northeast, this is the cleanest one that I found. So let's go ahead, let's lift it up. Let's show you how underneath of it looks. So with these LX and LS Lexus vehicles, along with the 4Runner and Tacoma, rust is a real issue. So I had a hard time finding a clean one of these. All of the ones that I looked at were absolute rust buckets, and it's just because they're from the Northeast, where we salt the roads. Now, this vehicle spent much of its time, luckily, in the South. It was a South Carolina, North Carolina, and Virginia car for the better half of its life. So you'll see there's a little bit of surface rust here on the frame, but there's nothing crazy. There is a little bit of leftover oil from the oil change that I just did, so I am going to have to wipe that down. But if you look under here, this frame is, for the most part, extremely solid, which is huge. That was one of the reasons that we picked this one up over some of the other ones, was just because of the condition of the frame. If we come back here, you'll see here is where we're going to be installing our hitch. It is solid. Again, a little bit of surface rust. We're going to clean it up, and we'll spray it with some, some undercoating or some black paint. make it look good and prevent it from rusting any further. Now, one thing that we also went ahead and did is we already went ahead and ordered a 3-inch lift for this. And we're going to be deleting the air suspension. It's just an easier and more reliable way to do it. I don't want any problems with airbags blowing out on the trails and then, you know, you're stuck riding on bump stops. So underneath here, everything is in beautiful shape. You'll see we have no leaks. Here's the transfer case. We are going to be servicing it. Up here is the transmission. Again, absolutely no leaks, and we are going to be servicing it. And then here we are at the engine. Like I said, just did an oil change, but no leaks. We are going to be servicing it. And then our front differential, which we are also going to be servicing. Now, one thing you are going to notice is the boots here on these axles are ripped. I'm going to replace the axles. I'm just going to put new axles in it, but we're going to keep these original equipment ones. And what we're going to do is reboot them and keep them as spares. That way we have them. But you'll see under here, this car is in immaculate shape. And actually, if you look up here, you'll see that nice new timing belt tensioner. So that is a telltale that this timing belt was done. Why they cheaped out and put the old serpentine belt back in, I'm not sure. That was a question that I asked, but they did give me a receipt showing that the timing belt and the radiator were replaced. So with all that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. You guys make this possible. Please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing if you like these 3 vehicles behind you. There is going to be plenty more content to come on the GSF, the LX470, and the IS350. So again, like, share, subscribe. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.